Final part. This was all to do with examining the management structures of the health service as applied to GPs and the regulation of the medical profession by the GMC. Consideration of the NHS systems was not an effective exercise for me because they had all changed so recently with the creation of primary care trusts that the system hadn't really had time to think about itself. It was clear to me that under the previous regime of family health services authorities, they had had hardly any powers to monitor GPs at all. The new PCTs had powers, but were only just beginning to think about how they might exercise them. The whole exercise by them was fragmented and embryonic. Unfortunately, it has remained so because those bodies have been chopped and changed so frequently that no one ever seems to get any further than settling into his or her new job before the bodies are amalgamated or the boundaries have changed and everyone starts applying for a new job. I do profoundly believe that public bodies need to achieve a degree of maturity before they function well. And now, the latest news is that PCTs are to be abolished entirely, and as far as I can tell, nothing is to be put in their place. So any recommendations that I made about the monitoring of doctors in the employment of the NHS has been a complete waste of time. I made some recommendations about the handling of patient complaints against doctors. They were nominally accepted, but in practice have not been acted upon. So far as the GMC was concerned, there were two main issues. One was the means by which the GMC adjudicated upon disciplinary matters, nowadays called fitness to practice issues. One of my main recommendations was that the GMC ought not to be the investigator and prosecutor and the judge, as it had been from time immemorial. The GMC had seen that criticism coming, and by the time my report came out, had improved the situation by creating adjudication panels comprising people who were not themselves members of the GMC. I was unimpressed by that change because the panelists were not independent of the GMC. They, and indeed still are not, they are recruited by the GMC, trained by them. When a member begins to sit, his performance is monitored by the GMC. He might be advised how to improve his performance. If he fails to heed that advice, the GMC can remove him from the panel. So there is no independence. I proposed an independent body to adjudicate for the doctors, and also suggested that the other medical and quasi-medical professions, such as nurses and dentists and pharmacists, should in due course join in using the panelists provided by this independent body. This proposal was greeted with approval on all sides and in due course went through Parliament without political opposition or division. It resulted in the setting up of the Office of Health Professions Adjudicator. That body now exists. It came into existence in January of this year. The Act permitting its, empowering its provision was passed in 2009. The body has been preparing to start work, and I think was hoping to start in April 2011. But unfortunately, since the election, the government has decided that it is not prepared to pay for the start-up costs. It was always intended that once up and running, the GMC or the other regulatory bodies would pay the ongoing costs. The government appears to have decided, subject to consultation, that it wishes to repeal the legislation. It says that it wishes, and I quote, to strengthen the independence of the GMC's adjudicatory body. The consultation paper now, which is now out, doesn't really say how independence is to be achieved or how the other regulatory bodies are to be brought in. If it were not for the fact that I know the GMC itself now recognises the need for real independence of adjudication, I would be in total despair. the unwillingness to go ahead with something that is so far down the line due to a reluctance to pay the start-up costs seems to me so short-sighted, as the long-term advantages in terms of cost and quality provision are just overwhelming. So I'm pretty upset about that. The other main issue in the fifth report was the revalidation of doctors, in other words, periodic checks on continuing competence. I didn't make detailed proposals as to how this should be done. It was way outside my expertise, but I did point out that the then current proposals were no more than a rubber stamping exercise, that they would be time-consuming and pointless. The Secretary of State accepted that and put the brakes on the existing proposals. There followed a review by the Chief Medical Officer, which endorsed and very usefully built on my general ideas. But 5 years on, we still do not have revalidation. The detailed plans are still not complete, and the present government is not encouraging progress. However, there does now seem to be real determination within the GMC and the Medical Royal Colleges to work out something valuable and effective, and I think they will get there in the end. So in terms of achievement, on the third, fourth and fifth reports, it's all very much a curate's A. The thing I console myself is, even if there hasn't been any concrete achievement, at least there has been a stimulation of discussion, and I think then that may have had some effect in changing the culture of professional regulation at least. But looking at the inquiry as a whole, was it worth the time and the energy and the resources? It's not only government money that goes into it, but all the effort of all the people that have to take part. I'd like to say yes, but I think on any view it's a very close run thing.